warm welcome from Aviakul Aviation Academy as we do the regular practices every month, one webinar, and introduce uh, the aviation enthusiastic persons uh, to the um, industry specialist, right? In the same series, today we have invited Ashwani Sharma sir. He is the aviation consultant and advisor in many airlines and organizations in the aviation, right? He has around 30 plus year experience. So now I'm handing over this platform to uh, Ashwani Sharma sir, right? Uh, sir, now it is handing over to you.
Okay, Pushpender, thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Adabars, namaste, namaskar, vanakkam to everybody here. A few words about myself before we begin. I started my career in aviation in the year 1976. Though I am a mechanical engineer, but I joined Air India, and Air India was gracious enough to impart 2 years training, converting me to an aeronautical engineer. There is a disclaimer that I'm not going to invent wheel here, and I don't give jobs. All I'm going to do is, with my vast experience, that I'm going to share my experience with you and what I see in the industry today, what kind of jobs are available, where you can get jobs, how you can get jobs, and more importantly, how to arm yourself or equip yourself to get a job. So without further ado, right. Can everybody see my see the screen? My presentation is visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's go to the first slide, Pushpender. Okay. So the question that comes to mind, as a matter of fact, most of the audience here would be in aviation. I don't see that many people would be outside aviation, but still the question that comes to your mind, everybody's mind, who have choices between aviation and other fields, why select aviation? So the simple answer to that question is that aviation is the fastest muted myself. So why aviation? The simple answer is aviation is the fastest growing sector in India, and there has been a growth of over 33% in the number of passengers carried by Indian domestic carriers in 2021 as compared to 2022. Now, this data is during the COVID period. 2020 and 2021 was when the second wave was, in its full intensity. Still, in 2020, Indian domestic passenger numbers were 630 lakhs, while in 2021, it climbed to 838 lakhs. So there is a 33% growth in 1 year. The country now has about 140 airports, which is amazing because when I joined aviation about half a century ago, there were just about 10 airports in India. 6 were maybe civil airports, 6 or 7, and there were 3, 4, dual airports, Air Force, Army, Navy, and also civilian aircraft or landing gear. So now country has about 140 airports, which is up from 74 in 2013-14, which this number includes heliports and water domes as well. So Government of India is probably working on operationalizing another 100 airfields in the next couple of years or 4 or 5 years. So the number of airports in India would probably be in excess of 200, 250 by 2030 or so. Next slide, Pushpender. Aviation is the fastest growing sector in India. The country's civil aviation sector is poised for a phenomenal and healthy growth in terms of passengers, aircraft, and airports, with the number of air travelers projected to touch 40 crores by 2027. This statement was made by Mr. Jyotiraditya Scindia, our Minister of Civil Aviation. Next slide, please. World's third largest air traffic. Now, how do we compare with the rest of the world? We are talking of the fastest growing sector among all the sectors in India, that is within India. But now let's see how we compare with the rest of the world. We are the world's third largest air traffic by the number of passengers transported. Now, India has the world's third largest air traffic by the number of passengers transported. More than 341 million passengers were transported in 2020 with a growth rate of 8%. Yeah. So I would imagine that in the next 4 or 5 years, we would probably touch 500, half a billion passengers being carried. So that is the kind of growth that is there. And that is how huge and how large India's aviation industry is. Next slide, please. Now let's talk about airport infrastructure. The Indian civil aviation sector has been witnessing the increasing use of airports on domestic and international routes. There are more than 103 domestic airports. I have said this before, 24 international airports and 10 customs airports in India. Each one of them is growing at a fast pace to improve its services. This is helping the aviation industry grow despite challenges faced by the market. The ICAO forecasts demand for 730 new airports by 2030, catering to the expected 6.5 billion airline passenger growth. Now, you must be wondering that why I'm, giving these numbers. Now, this is setting the context for the job market, because with the aviation, the jobs are intrinsically linked. As with any other industry, new airports, new aircraft, new airlines give rise to new jobs. So that is why I'm giving you to set the context for the jobs that would be available in aviation sector due to the expansion and growth, continuous expansion and continuous growth. Next slide, please. Now let's have a look at air cargo. As far as air cargo is concerned, India is the 6th largest air freight market globally, with over 3.33 million metric tons of loading as of 2021. The share of India in the global air freight market has increased from 2% in year 2000 to more than 7% as of 2021, with growth rates in the range of 3 to 7% per annum during recent years. And this growth rate would be even more if the infrastructure within India to carry the cargo from wherever the cargo originates to the airports, to the hub airports. If that infrastructure, which is now, gathering pace, we are making roads at a phenomenal rate. So if once that infrastructure is ready, then this growth rate would probably become double digit also. It is now 3 to 7%. And with that, we have, we are the 6th largest air freight market globally. Once the infrastructure within the country is ready, I guess more and more, air cargo will reach the airports, and air cargo growth will be much higher. India has developed as a pioneer in cargo logistics by building substantial port infrastructure as well, a well-performing national government financing program, and working closely with private sector industry groups. Next slide, please. Now, let's see at the aircraft orders. Now, recently, everyone must have seen the news. Tata Group owned Air India has placed 2 mega orders, adding up to a staggering 470 aircraft, 250 with Europe's Airbus Consortium and 220 with Boeing Company of United States. Indian Airlines have, as on date, more than 1,100 planes on order, which is huge. I don't think so any other country or even continent in the world has so many aircraft orders as on date. We probably are the largest in terms of placing orders. And your mind goes back to 2006 when there was a huge number of orders were placed, even in 2006, at that time by Kingfisher and the other couple of airlines, including Air India. But that was not an order based on the ground realities or the situation existing. This particular order of 470 aircraft is probably reflecting the ground reality in the true sense. So when this order was placed, probably the market research, the market intelligence gathering was done appropriately, and it reflects the kind of growth that India is going to see in passengers and cargo traffic. Next slide, please. Now, Boeing has projected that India will require around 2,210 new planes in the next 2 decades, and also pegged annual domestic air traffic growth at nearly 7% through the year 2041. Our Prime Minister on February 14th, about 10 days ago, said the country's growing aviation sector would need over 2,000 aircraft in the next 15 years. And aviation consultancy group CAPA also said, reflected the same sentiments, though their numbers are slightly less. They said that Indian carriers are likely to place orders for 1,500 to 1,700 airplanes in the next 1 to 2 years. So as on date, we have 1,100 airplanes on order, and CAPA feels that in the next 2 years, maybe this number will jump to 1,500 to 1,700 airplanes. Next slide. Now, now I'm coming to the moot point, which I was making earlier, that why I'm giving these numbers of the growth in traffic, growth in cargo, and the aircraft being ordered. Now, jobs created per aircraft. Now, a wide-bodied aircraft creates 250 to 300 jobs, which is direct employment. That means the pilots that would be required per aircraft, the cabin crew that would be required, the aircraft maintenance engineers, the technicians, security staff, revenue management staff, etc. So that is direct employment. For a wide-body aircraft, it is 250 to 300 jobs. But there is also indirect employment because aircraft supply chain, the other supports given to the ground services, etc. That is indirect employment, the airfields, the airports, the airport staff, the check-in staff, etc. That is 600 to 700 jobs. So every wide-body aircraft which comes into the country gives around 850 to 1,000 jobs, creates around 850 to 1,000 jobs. Now, by extrapolating this data, these numbers, it can be deduced that around 2 lakh jobs will be created by Air India's order of 470 aircraft only. But as I said earlier, that the number of aircrafts on order is about 3 times this number or 2.5 times this number. So if you further extrapolate, that means about 500,000 jobs, about 5 lakh jobs would be created once all these orders are delivered. Next slide, please. As per one estimate, by 2035, the Indian civil aviation sector will employ 0.8 to 1 million personnel directly and another 3 million indirectly. As I said earlier, 1 direct job or 3.5 indirect job, that's the ratio we are looking at. And these jobs are in following segments: in airport, airlines, cargo, MRO, ground handling. So in all these sectors put together, by the year 2035, our aviation sector will have 1 million, 10 lakh people working in the industry. Next slide, please. Now, as per the conventional wisdom, there are only 4 types of jobs in aviation. Now, that's not true for the audience here, but I, give motivational lectures in schools and colleges also, where I use this slide that people only know that airline jobs are limited to pilots, engineers and mechanics, flight attendants and ground crew, and which is not true, which people in this audience know. So let's skip this slide, go forward. Next slide. Go back one slide. Now, I have listed about 10, 15 job functions, pilots, aircraft maintenance technicians, air traffic controller, AMEs, quality control personnel, airport operations staff, ticketing, flight crew, flight attendants, aerospace engineers, aviation medicine, quality control, flight test, avionics. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of jobs that are there. The number of verticals in aviation has become huge now, as we'll see further. The number of the type of jobs that are available in aviation is now in probably 50 to maybe 100, even in 3 digits. Next slide, please. Now, as per the Aerospace and Aviation Sector Skill Council, and I have taken this data from their website, that is aassc.in. There are a whopping 76 job roles for aviation on their website. That means that Skill Council can give training in 76 job roles in aviation alone. So that gives you a perspective as to the kind of jobs that are available in aviation today. Next slide, please. Now, I've just taken a few examples from Aviation Sector Skill Council website. Now, the first one they have there now is the latest kid on the block, that is the drone. So there's a drone operator, and as per one estimate, which I got to know in another conference on drones, 100,000 drone operators or drone pilots will be needed in the next couple of years in India. So you can imagine the amount of jobs that are required, and drone comes under aviation. So we need 1 lakh drone pilots in the next couple of years. That many drones would be manufactured or imported into India, and you need pilots to operate drones. You need licensed pilots to do that, and the number required is 100,000 as per one estimate. And these are the requirements for that. 8th class pass or 10th class pass, plus all the requirements are given here. So the idea of this slide is that the number of drone pilots required is huge. So forget about other jobs in aviation. In a simple drone, mundane drone, to operate that also, we will require 100,000 people. Next slide, please. And then there is airport safety crew. Airports are coming up in big number. As I said, more than 100 aircraft now, more than another 100 aircraft are being made ready or will become operational. And with those airports, you require airport safety, because safety is paramount. So you need all these people. So again, the requirements are given in the Sector Skill Council website. I have just taken it from their website. Next slide, please. Let's see, technical services engineer. Now, pursuing 3rd degree in undergraduate in mechanical, electrical, electronic disciplines, completed 3-year diploma in mechanical, electrical, electronic with 2 years of relevant experience, 2 years diploma after 12th in mechanical, electrical, electronics with 1 year relevant experience, or AME with 2-year course with 12th grade in science, physics, chemistry, mathematics. These are the requirements for a technical services engineer to gain the skills on with the sectors, aviation, aerospace and aviation sector skill council. So this is again reflected on their website. Next slide, please. Now I will talk of some niche sectors for aviation jobs, which were earlier not considered to be the jobs, especially for aviation sector. There is now a niche area called aviation attorneys. Now, why we need aviation attorneys, I've tried to explain on this slide. With the evolution of aviation over the years, new niche jobs have come up in aviation. One such job is aviation attorney. With the advent of leasing of aircraft in the 1970s, more and more airlines are adopting the business model of leasing aircraft as against owning them. This business model is gaining currency. With leasing comes a lease agreement, And with lease agreement, there is a lesser lessee dispute, which are inevitable, the consequence of leasing, and that is where aviation attorneys come in. Now, needless to mention here that with disputes involving assets costing millions of dollars, the aviation attorneys are among the highest paid lawyers in the world. So people who earlier were not, if you are doing a degree in law, you wouldn't be thinking of joining aviation or working in aviation field. You would probably be thinking of, practicing law at district court or high court, Supreme Court, etc. But today, because of the 70% to 80% of the aircraft flying are on lease, and every lease aircraft has a lease agreement, and every lease agreement gives a potential for a dispute coming up. And with that comes now, if a lawyer has to defend a lessor or a lessee or argue for a lessor or lessee in a court of law, that attorney or that lawyer needs basic knowledge of aviation. He needs to know what an aircraft is, how does it look like, basically, what are the basic parts of an aircraft, etc. So this has given rise to a huge amount of jobs. And as I mentioned on this slide, that since the value of the case that they are arguing is in millions, aircraft cost millions of dollars. So there, and the wages they get for is in proportion to the value of the assets they are fighting for. They are probably some of the highest paid lawyers in the world today. Next slide, please. Now, another jobs that have come up in aviation, which were earlier not exclusively for aviation, are data science jobs. Like any other sector, aviation has not remained untouched by data science, which encompasses artificial intelligence, machine learning, and Internet of Things. Now, every aspect, every element of aviation today, whether it is aircraft maintenance, whether it is aircraft operations, whether it is flight dispatch, whether it is air traffic control, whether it is inventory control, in revenue management, every aspect has some data science in it in some way, shape, or form, either artificial intelligence or machine learning part or the Internet of Things. Now, data science is finding itself having increasing relevance in revenue management, engineering, maintenance, security, operations, and many other aspects of aviation. Hence, today in aviation, a large number of jobs are available for data scientists, also known as number crunchers. So the people who work with numbers earlier had probably no career options in aviation industry, but today we have huge number of opportunities in aviation because data science is there in every field. More and more jobs are becoming automated, and when automation comes, data science. We already are aware that in maintenance these days, the AMEs do not do the troubleshooting as it was being done half a century ago with a wiring diagram or a schematics manual and the multimeter, and the AME would go all over the aircraft trying to measure voltages, currents, and then looking in the wiring diagram manual and seeing if there's a problem and where the problem is. These days, the aircraft is having a net of sensors all over it, already pre-installed at the time of manufacture itself. And those sensors, they keep measuring temperatures, voltages, currents, flows, pressures, movements, etc. And that data is constantly fed to the central maintenance computer on board the aircraft, which then churns that data. And that's where data science comes in, because to make sense of the data and to come up with actionable intelligence, you need data science. So the specialized software programs are written by data scientists, which then make sense of that data, millions or billions of bits of data that comes, and an actionable intelligence is generated. So the AME, when he goes to the aircraft, he just presses a few buttons and he gets a message in plain English, replace particular relay or component or whatever. And, so that is the extent of data science that is now finding its way. And I'm talking only of aircraft maintenance, and it is there in every field in aircraft aviation today. So hence today in aviation, a large number of jobs are available for data scientists. Next slide, please. Aviation medicine. Past couple of decades has seen aviation medicine evolve as a specialized medical discipline. There are now medical qualifications with specialization in aviation medicine. Every medical college, they are awarding degrees with specialization in aviation medicine. With every airline employing multiple aviation specialists, a large number of jobs are now available. So the doctors who earlier were limited to, a clinic being there in any airline, and the staff would go there to get the medicines for their cough, cold, etc. Now, the aviation medicine itself has become a specialized discipline. More and more care is being paid to the health of the staff or personnel working in aviation, and that has given rise to a lot of jobs in this particular niche field of aviation medicine. Next slide, please. Psychoanalysis. This is a very recent phenomena which has come up. Now, why we need psychoanalysts in airlines today is because a number of unfortunate murder-suicide incidents in the recent past involving pilots. Aviation sector needs psychoanalysts to test the mental health of wannabe pilots, as well as to maintain the same for existing crew members with continuous testing and counseling. So this is something which only a trained psychoanalyst can do. So before the pilots are recruited these days, they are given a lot of psychoanalysis tests, psychometric tests to test their mental health, etc. And this has given rise to, a fresh batch of jobs in aviation industry, which earlier did not exist. This phenomenon has created fresh jobs of psychoanalysts in aviation sector that hitherto did not exist. So up to here, I have tried to, just touch probably the surface of the niche jobs that have come up in aviation in the last couple of decades, which earlier did not exist. Now we will see there are many others. Now I have not listed all of them, but there are many other areas and niche jobs which are there. So I will now explain a few other things about aviation job scenario. So next slide, please. Now, the question uppermost in everybody's mind is, and audience, people who are listening to me who have been struggling to get jobs would be that, so what is new? What is he trying to tell us? I have this qualification, I have X qualification, Y qualification, and I still haven't got a job because the jobs are scarce, and we all know that. So now I will, devote the next few slides to just to try and tell you that how to get that job, how to get that elusive job. So we are all aware that for every available job, there are many contenders. This is true for every sector, and aviation is no different. Because of job scarcity, for every job that is announced, you'll have hundreds of people who will be applying, and there may be 10, 20, 15 vacancies, but the number of applying could be in hundreds or even in thousands. So everybody is not going to get the job. So how you should get that job, how you will get that job. It is also a fact that prospective employers do not use resources to train freshers. I told in the beginning that I joined Air India as a graduate engineer trainee with a mechanical engineering degree. So my qualification did not entitle me to become an aeronautical engineer. I had not learned theory of flight, aerodynamics, the Brayton cycle, Bernoulli's principle, etc. All these things in my college, or maybe I had learned those principles, but how they are applied to aviation was not taught to me because I was in a mechanical engineering discipline. So how did I end up an aeronautical engineer? Because Air India recruited us along with me, a batch of 25 of us, and gave us 2 years of training, which is really gracious, and it is unheard of in in today's world, because for those 2 years, we were non-productive for the airline. We did not, produce anything for them. So, but they still tolerated us and gave us training to make us aeronautical engineers. Now, that is not happening anymore. Gone are the days when airlines used to hire fresh graduates and professionals and give them months of training, even though the trainees were largely non-productive for the airlines. Now, those days are gone. These days, no airline, no MRO will hire freshers and give them training using their resources, expending their resources while the trainees are non-productive. Airlines today want people who can start producing or being productive from day one of their joining that airline. So no trainings, no airline is spending any money. As a matter of fact, people here in the audience must be aware that even if the pilots are not being trained by airlines anymore. If you wish to join an airline as a pilot, as an airline pilot, the trainee has to go and get his type rating done on his own, spend his own money, go to a flying school, learn to fly aircraft, get type rating done, do the simulators, etc., get the rating endorsed in his or her pilot's license, and then come to the airline and produce himself, present himself as a prospective pilot, and the airlines then hire him. So this is the scenario we are facing today. No trainings are given by airlines. People have to do training on their own. So what you can do for that, I will come to that. Next slide, please. So what to do? That must be the question uppermost in everybody's mind. So there is only one thing to do, and that is value addition. And how do you do that? That is to enhance your knowledge and upgrade your skills. Now, 50, 60 years ago, when computers were not there, we used to have typists who would, bang on a typewriter, on a Remington typewriter, and type out letters. Now, the typist jobs, whenever they were announced, there was one line in there that people knowing stenography would be, shorthand would be given preference. So the people who would learn typing, you had to go to a school to learn typing, and then your speed had to, you had to meet a minimum speed of 40 words per minute or 50 words per minute. If you can type at that speed, then you are considered good to get a job as a clerk. And those who knew shorthand would, get better jobs or would get preference over everybody else, because the boss would dictate a letter and person who knew shorthand would be able to write as the boss is speaking shorthand, and then type out that letter. And those who did not know shorthand would struggle to keep pace with the boss's dictation, because they had to write in longhand and it will take a long time. So exactly the same thing is replicated here today, that you need to upgrade your skills, enhance your knowledge, and you should be able to tell the interview board that you are in front of that how you have added value to your qualification. Like if you have done an AME course, so you have certain knowledge about aircraft maintenance. Now, if you can show to the interview board that besides aircraft maintenance, you know how to maintain an aircraft, how to service engine oil, how to service hydraulics of an aircraft, how to troubleshoot pressurization system, air conditioning system, etc. In addition to that, if you know about inventory control, if you know about production planning and control, if you know about lease management, if you know about warranty management, these kind of skills, these kind of upgradation of your knowledge, you will stand out among the rest, among the crowd. In that scenario, the boss or the interview board will, love to have you on their roles rather than somebody who does not know all these disciplines or who does not have all these knowledge. And this probably is not being taught in detail in the AME school, because they will teach you whatever is mandated by the DGCA. So you will learn DGCA mandatory stuff in an AME school, but you will get a better chance, or you will stand a better chance of getting a job if you learn additional skills, arm yourself with additional skills, as I have told you. So that is the only way of cracking a job where the competition is fierce. There are, X number of jobs and there are thousands of applicants. Now, how to get that job is by adding value to your qualifications, enhancing your qualifications and upgrading your skills. And fortunately, today, you can do all this sitting at home, free of charge, online. You don't have to go anywhere. There is huge data available on the internet. There you can learn almost every skill. You can upgrade your knowledge to any extent. There are paid courses, of course, which are focused, which are targeted, and you will, do it much faster. But you can do it free also, which will probably take a lot more time because you'll have to hunt for it, the resources on the internet, and then add to your knowledge. Whereas paid course which are available, those are targeted, and you can probably do it much faster if you have the capacity to pay for that. Next slide, please. Now, these are a few of my own suggestions, which I give to the students when I give lectures on this kind of lectures. And the uppermost in that is that if you are looking to work in an airline, learn at least one foreign language. More so if you are working for an airline which is based outside India, which is a foreign airline operating within India. Now, if you are appearing for an interview as a technician or as an AME or as a revenue staff with Lufthansa in India. Now, chances are that one of the board members or the chairman of the board would be a German-speaking native German. And if you can speak a few sentences of German in front of him in that interview, chances are that you will get the job rather than others who did not speak any German. This is natural. I mean, I'm not saying that this is a short way of getting a job, but this is probably the likely scenario. So at least one foreign language, French, German, Spanish, Arabic, Chinese, Japanese, whatever is your fancy. And again, you can learn all these languages free online. There are enough YouTube videos available for teaching foreign languages. You don't have to go out of your house. You don't have to spend any money. These are freely available. So all you need is your time. So your time has to be spent judiciously. Next is that learn basics of theory of flight, even if not in engineering and operations. Now, when you work in an airline, when you work in an MRO, it is always advantageous to know what an aircraft is, how it operates, how it works. Not saying that you should be thorough in that, but you should have some basic knowledge. So, which is always helpful at some point of, either at the time you are trying to crack an interview in front of the interview board, or even if once you are employed and you are working, it will help you. Somewhere down the line, it will help if you have even if you are in commercial or in your revenue management side or any other areas, even in security safe. If you know basics of theory of flight, it will help you. And the third point is that learn the basics of data science. Now, this is critical because, as I told you earlier, data science is like a hydra-headed monster. It's finding its way everywhere. So those people who are not in tune with data science, they are going to lose out ultimately, because a day will come when the data science will rule the roost. So artificial intelligence, machine learning, and Internet of Things are the components of which make up data science. So you need to equip yourself with some basic knowledge of these things. Again, I keep on repeating ad nauseum that this is all available free for you online. You can learn it online. Along with data science comes a new thing, which is blockchain technology. Now, many people, or most of you people, would know about cryptocurrency because that makes news. Now, cryptocurrency is nothing but blockchain technology, in other words. So, how blockchain technology is relevant to aviation is very interesting, because those of you who work in or who know about maintenance, especially engine maintenance in aviation, there is one thing sacrosanct in documentation of aviation engineering, and that is back to birth traceability. No lease aircraft can change hands unless the present operator can show back to birth traceability of all the components installed on that aircraft, on that asset, especially engines, especially the hot section of the engines, because a spurious component in engines can create a lot of problems. It can even cause a crash, can cause fatalities. So blockchain technology, how it is useful there is because blockchain technology and normal data, which is like in Microsoft Word or Excel, etc., that those also have data embedded in them. Excel worksheet or a Word document has data in it. The difference is that that data can be altered anywhere. There are ways and means of getting into it and altering it. Whereas blockchain technology has this particular aspect to it, or I would say speciality, that the data cannot be altered by anybody. The data can be seen and read used by anybody who is in that chain, but nobody can alter that data. And that is where the blockchain technology is ideal for inventory control, inventory management in aviation, where we are very much worried about data being corrupted. And by that, I mean that a spurious component with a corruption in part number or serial number or a dash number can create a problem for the airline. So when you have blockchain technology, the airline can be secure that yes, this data is not been corrupted. It's good data. So this is just an illustration of what I was telling earlier, that data science is there in every field. It's going to be increasingly used in aviation. So it is ideal for people who are trying to get jobs in aviation, who are thinking of working in aviation, especially in engineering, in revenue management of aviation, in operations, that they learn about data science. So this is